President Trump going on a Twitter tantrum accusing President Obama of ordering wiretaps on Trump Tower. We will take a look at this from many different angles, including how this whole thing got started. Then the Trump administration issues a new travel ban after federal courts blocked the first one. Will the revamped rules pass legal muster? Also, how the Trump administration's assault on regulations coming fast and furious could impact everything from the air we breathe to the water we drink to even the financial systems that keep this country in business. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. Thank you so much for joining us this Monday night. I'm Richard French. We're going to begin with the accusations heard around the world. Early Saturday morning, President Trump, he sent out a series of tweets saying that President Obama wiretapped him right before Election Day. In a few minutes, we'll go into this much more in detail, including what possibly set the president off. White House, though, offering no proof whatsoever to substantiate that explosive claim. But someone who would know whether it happened, former National Intelligence Director James Clapper, said it didn't happen. Take a listen.
For the part of the national security apparatus that I oversaw as DNI, there was no such wiretap activity mounted against the president-elect at the time, or as a candidate, or against his campaign.
The White House, they've been on damage control ever since. Here's spokesperson Sarah Huckabee Sanders on GMA this morning.
The wiretapping has been discussed in the New York Times, BBC, Fox News, and we believe that it should be looked at by the House Intelligence Committee.
I have got to stop you right there. Every single article you just mentioned does not back up the president's claim that President Obama had him wiretapped.
It does back up the fact that the administration was wiretapping American citizens. There was a wide reporting suggesting that his administration, whether it was directly ordered by this president specifically, his administration could have done this.
Sarah, I have got to stop you again. No, Sarah, I've got to stop you again because that is simply not true.
Look, I love how now anonymous sources don't matter anymore. We've been dealing with anonymous sources and having to fight back against that for the last 6 months. It's funny how the media now
hold on a second. Sarah, even if that one is true, that is saying it was a court-ordered wiretap, not an illegal wiretap ordered by President Obama.
And trust me, it went on like that for 5 minutes, and you could have picked a channel this morning. It was the same drill. Now, to add to the drama, as if we needed any more, the New York Times is reporting that the FBI Director James Comey asks the Justice Department to publicly reject the president's wiretapping claims. Now, I got a lot more to say about this whole mess in Washington. So a lot to unpack here. This is what we know as we broadcast live tonight. Now, I know that for then President Barack Obama to have personally ordered then candidate Donald Trump's phones to be wiretapped would have been both illegal and impossible. So maybe our new president, after storming out of Washington in a huff on Friday without his senior staff for another 3-day weekend in Mar-a-Lago, maybe he was left without minders and he just got the details wrong, but he got the substance right in that 3 a.m. tweet storm. Maybe not. For a FISA warrant to have been ordered, and we'll have a legal guest on in a little bit to give more detail to this, the FBI director would have had to have been involved. And he is saying definitively he has no clue what Trump is talking about. Ditto, as we just showed you, for the then Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper. He gave a categorical denial about this. Okay, then you ask, well, how about the Senate or House Intelligence Committee members? Surely one of those Republican Trump apologists, they would have had to have his back the last 48 hours, right? Wrong. Nobody is going out on a ledge except for those poor White House communication staff who resemble human piñatas on Sunday morning and this morning's talk shows. Attempting to deflect, if not defend, what we see is the indefensible here is the tough job that they have in front of them. Now, while I have to admit, I had to read those tweets 3 times to actually believe what I was seeing, why really should anybody be surprised anymore? The same guy who lied about predecessor's faith and nation of birth, I'm talking about President Obama, of course. The same guy accused his primary opponent's father of being involved in the assassination of JFK. Remember that about Ted Cruz? And remember the same guy who lied about those massive conspiracies of voter fraud, 3 to 5 million, and the inauguration crowd sizes, even though we all saw the photos and saw that it was half, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's becoming possibly worse than a serial deceiver, what we're seeing right now. In 45 days, alternative facts have become a real thing. Now, it used to be when you saw an Inquirer headline at the supermarket checkout line that Amelia Earhart was actually living with aliens in the Bermuda Triangle, you'd realize you were looking at fake news. Same thing went for the fringe conspiracy crazies. And I'm talking about Breitbart now and the loony mouthpiece Mark Levin. Well, we have taken an off-road off of the rational information highway when anyone, especially our commander-in-chief, is considering these sources as credible and then parroting to the American public and the world that they're in fact. But here we are, and we're not here by accident. In 45 days, the executive branch has systemically attacked the media, who's trying to fact-check the broken promises and outright deceit, and he's called us enemies of the state. He's gone after the intelligence agencies, who've also come under his assault for the temerity of confirming that a foreign nation, Russia, hacked and manipulated our democratic process. Our courts, in Trump's words, are made up of so-called judges whose crime in his eyes was upholding the law and the Constitution when it disagreed with it. Now, I got my own feelings for some of the White House's outrageousness. I think, for one, it's just me talking. It's equal parts ineptitude and also some intentional distraction. I believe, we'll see if I'm proven right, that the delegitimizing of the press, the courts, and particularly the intel community, it's a precursor to try and marginalize what will potentially be devastating revelations to come. But as they say, film at 11. What I want to see now, though, has nothing to do with our executive or our judicial branches. I want Congress, specifically, I want Republicans to grow a spine here and put country before party. You know, there are two former ghosts of the Nixon era who reminded me of a different time. John Dean, remember him? Well, he recently said a couple weeks ago he sees the echoes of Watergate, in his words, in President Trump's first month, and that was before the most recent paranoid tweet fest. But it was another Republican name from that window of history that reminded me of what could be. Senator Barry Goldwater. You heard me right. The farthest thing from a liberal if there ever was one. He told Nixon in '74 that he, quote, had heard one lie too many, and that he and the majority of his Republican colleagues would no longer stand with him, leaving Nixon no other choice. And the rest, as they say, is history. Well, Republicans today, they're not faced with that ominous choice as we speak. But they do have a decision to make. Excuse the delegitimizing of our institutions that we all rely on because he's one of your own here, or realizing that this thing is bigger than the guy in the Oval Office or in Mar-a-Lago, and that the truth still actually matters. We'll see what choice they make. Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, I'll be joined by a legal expert to talk about what actually is in the insinuations or the outright allegations made from President Trump, whether or not that actually is legally feasible or not, and why he says the president needs a certain lesson in the law.